These last four references are to different networking protocols employed by different companies. Now, let us see the next topic of our interest, which is actually a concern for security of computer systems, especially in an environment of networked systems. What is the security of a computer? Many operating systems include some level of security. Security is based on two ideas. The operating system provides access to a number of resources, directly or indirectly, such as files on a local disk, privileged system calls, personal information about users, and the services offered by programs running on the system. So I will reread. The operating system provides access to a number of resources. Okay. So directly or indirectly, such as files on a local disk, number one. Number two, privileged system calls. Number three, personal information about users and the services offered by programs running on the system. So these are actually things managed by an operating system. And in all these fields, there are elements of security included. The second point here is the OS operating system is capable of distinguishing between some requesters of these resources who are authorized to access the resources and others who are not authorized. So here we have two classifications: people who are authorized to access resources and others who are not authorized to access the files in a system. So these are actually related to the security of a computer system. Some of the systems may simply distinguish between privileged or non-privileged users of a computer. So if you are privileged, you have access to either read, edit, or whatever changes that you could make on a file in a computer. If you are a non-privileged user, perhaps your user facility is limited to only certain functions. For example, you may not be perhaps permitted to edit a file. Perhaps rather you might be only viewing a file or reading a file in a system. So systems commonly have a form of requester identity, such as a username, also a password. Requesters in turn are divided into two categories. Number one is internal security and number two is external security. So for accessing even our email services like Gmail server, we have a username as well as a password. All of you know that. Perhaps you may be using a password for accessing your personal computers at home. There will be a user or multiple users will be there, and for individual users there may be perhaps innumerable passwords associated with those users. So those users have access to files only if you give permission to it. Now what is internal security? Internal security is actually applicable to an already running program. Already running programs do not have any limitation. The program has an identity. So there are some programs which are already run. So for example, if you are installing a new program into your computer, so there is actually a user request permission enabled. So if the administrator of the user of a computer permits the entry of or the installation of a new program, so there is a possibility of the use of the new program in a computer. So there are some systems or other programs already running in a computer and which does not require a permission from the user. So the already running programs do not have any kind of limitations because it's already identified by the administrative users of a computer. Now, what about the second thing, external security? External security always demands permission from the administrative users of a computer. It is actually a new request from outside the computer. A login into a network is required. There is a process of identification. Username and passwords are required. Different methods of authentications are used. At times, magnetic cards are used. Biometrical data is also filled in. A system with a high level of security will also offer auditing options. So external security is also is a very important concern for computer system security management. In considering the security of a system, say we'll very often limit the use of a computer by means of a login username and password. So this is also applicable here. So in some other cases, especially in banking, we have different kinds of cards, banking cards used, magnetic cards are used. Even in different companies, we have biometric mechanisms to enter into a location. So you are given permission to enter into a location, provided you have fulfilled all biometrical assignments. A system with a high level of security will also offer auditing options.